"What's wrong, doctor?" we said. Last time for the long-running 2022 Rivian R1T Launch Edition. Finally, we kept it for about 2 months beyond our usual 12-month test so we could complete a series of special tests, including towing, hauling, battery drain, and tow charging. Some 27,600 miles later, we finally let Rivian take Doc home, even though he didn't want to. The Doc, in case you forgot, is a Launch Edition truck, which makes it a bit of a factory craze and possibly a future collector's item. That meant it was painted launch green, equipped with a big, 135 kilowatt-hour battery pack, 133 usable, and an 835 horsepower, 908 pound-foot four-wheel drive. It also meant that those wheels cost nothing. We then specified it with the then optional adventure trim, added the off-road upgrade, now called the all-terrain upgrade, and an optional full-size spare tire, now part of the all-terrain upgrade. All told, the Doc was $76,875 as built, though his order came right before the big price change. Today, a similar but not identical truck would cost $93,600. It may not have been cheap up front, but our R1T was cheap to run. Over 14 months and 27,591 miles, we spent a total of $4,916.11 saving energy at home, in public, and at work. That works out to an average of just 18 cents per mile. Our long-term Toyota Tundra TRD Pro, by comparison, a hybrid with similar towing and hauling capabilities but significantly less power, cost us $4,217.79 in gas over 6 months and just 12,381 miles, which is 34 cents per mile contain. The Tundra costs just $4,900 less than the R1T, so we made up the difference in fuel economy before the Rivia's time with us ended. At today's price of $93,600, it would take about 2.5 years to make up the difference. Our long-term 2022 Ford F-150 Lightning Lariat, one of the R1T's few competitors, currently cost us $3,513.74 over 10 months in. About it cost 16,500 miles, or 21 cents per mile. Servicing our R1T has also been cheap, though mainly because Rivian repeatedly refused to pay us for repairs, and since the company owns and operates all the service centers, we couldn't go around them. In total, we spent $1,378.06 in maintenance, all of which went to changing tires, something we could have done without involving Rivia, lubricating and rebuilding a noisy wheel bearing, reattaching a loose bit of window trim, replacing a wheel well liner damaged by a flat tire, and repairing a broken undercarriage off-road. Among other jobs, two 12-volt batteries were accidentally drained when the truck's batteries died. We killed and broke the charging port locking mechanism while trying to charge the truck after the battery died. All covered as goodwill gestures that Rivian insists will be covered under everyone's warranty. He at least provided a tally for the gouge from under the passenger taillight after someone rear-ended the truck in the parking lot, $3,000. The truck also had 2 recalls during our loan period. We're lucky to have a Rivian service center less than a mile from our office, so it was easy to get them checked out and signed off, no repairs needed. When it comes to actual service calls, the time on the service center schedule has always seemed magical to us, but we understand that this has not been the experience for many owners. Read between the lines and you'll see that Doc and I had a lot of fun. The off-road capability of the R1T has us regularly taking it to our local off-road vehicle, OHV, areas. The individual wheel control provided by the 4 motors and the ride height provided by the air suspension made it easy to climb trails that are normally the purview of Wranglers and Broncos. Being able to air up the tires at the end of the day and then fill them up from the standard onboard air compressor made hitting the trail as easy as going for a Sunday drive. Thanks to the air suspension and its ability to get the truck down to the ground and the ability of the 4 motors to provide constant precise torque vectoring. Going to the trailhead and back was equally fun. Add hydraulically coupled shock absorbers with real-time anti-roll, and the truck is just as much fun to drive on a canyon road as it is when the pavement ends. All of these things made the truck fun to drive as well. Hauling a bed full of gravel or mulch for a yard project was easy thanks to 908 pound-feet of torque and 835 horsepower. The air suspension kept the truck level, while the hydraulics handled it as if it were idle. It was the same when we used the truck to tow everything from utility trailers to cars. The engines simply don't care about the extra weight and the suspension has no trouble maintaining the trailer line. The integrated trailer brake worked flawlessly, giving us no reason to miss the one-size-fits-all modules found in other trucks. As with combustion-powered trucks, towing takes a huge hit on driving range, only made worse by the state of our public charging infrastructure, unreliable, undersized, and almost never built with towing in mind, and charging being slower than gas. Our tests found that towing cuts the range in half. From an EPA estimated 314 miles under ideal conditions to about 150 miles or less with a trailer on the right wheels. Part of that was our tire choice. Knobby all-terrain doesn't get the same mileage as a dedicated street tire, and that's a compromise we made knowingly and willingly. The EPA rates the R1T at 289 miles with all-terrain tires, while the Rivian now predicts 274 miles, although both were still rated at 314 miles in all configurations when we bought the truck. That's certainly reflected in the R1T's 228-mile Mount road trip range, which measures how far you can go in the car, which is only on the highway, where EVs are least efficient. However, there are ways to drive more efficiently. One editor drove 290 miles between loads on a truck trip. When connected to the rare fully functional DC fast charger, we saw a peak charging speed of 218 kilowatts. Just shy of the Rivian's official rating of 220 kilowatts. During our official, regulated charging test, we saw a peak output of 211 kilowatts, which allowed the battery to charge from 5 to 80% in 46 minutes. Although it can charge quickly when the battery is low, the charging speed decreases rapidly as the battery fills up, prolonging the process. Not so bad chargers and moderately slow charge times weren't enough to deter us from road trips. Doc regularly made 800-plus mile trips into Northern California, Northern Nevada, and Southern Arizona, as well as shorter road trips to Central California racetracks, the Central Coast wine region, and all over the mountains and deserts of Southern California. On more frequent road trips, we needed to stop for snacks and drinks about every 3 to 4 hours, at the same time that the truck needed to be refilled. It was the onboard navigation system and route planner that took our minds off a load in these drives. As good as Google and Apple Maps are, and as much as we miss CarPlay and Android Auto, which are not available in Rivians, the internal system worked well enough and was constantly improved with over-the-air, OTA, software updates. The fact is that Google and Apple still don't know what your current range is or what your average consumption has been on the drive so far, which makes them less useful for planning charging stops. Rivian's software not only knows all of this, but will quickly direct you to different chargers if conditions change. Planning an EV trip takes a lot of work. The navigation system is far from the only thing that has improved with the truck in our time. We've had 16 software updates downloaded over the air and installed at our convenience, usually in the middle of the night, covering everything from new features to major bug fixes. Among the specs were 2 new driver modes, sand and snow, a pet mode that maintains a comfortable interior temperature while in the shop, and the ability to open and close each of the truck's doors, hood, and gates. The ability to control the climate including seat heaters and coolers from the phone app. The ability to route the plan from the phone app and send it to the truck ahead of time. The ability to turn the forward-facing camera, the dash cam. The ability to control your garage doors from the infotainment screen, the car wash mode and camping mode, which can adjust the suspension on uneven ground to save energy, turn off all exterior lights, and turn off all vehicle functions except door locks and electrical outlets. Other meaningful improvements include increased charging speed, an extra 14 miles of range, improvements to the annoying keyless entry system, improvements to ride height control, numerous bug fixes, and a fun but temporary Halloween mode that makes things spooky. All this techno-wizard was just to make a big truck better. The R1T is not only good in handling and off-road, but also a comfortable daily driver. It drives better than any other pickup on the market and is quieter inside than anything except the Ford F-150 Lightning. Under the hood, under the back seat, in the gear tunnel and under the ton of metal that runs in the bed, all lockable, hideable storage is deep, was well received and was in constant use. Multiple household outlets with real power behind them were useful everywhere from the driveway to the workplace to the campsite. Since we're not commercial, the 4.5-foot bed was plenty big for our uses, whether it was hauling a load of crushed granite or packing for a camping trip in the mountains. Not having to pack a Bluetooth speaker or flashlight was a nice bonus since the truck came with both. That tonneau cover was one of the few big sticking points we encountered with the truck, as much as we liked it on the concept. Ours still worked until the truck was returned, but only if we helped it with a meaningful push or pull. Rivian has been promising a fix for months, but it's still not available at the time of writing. Other gripes include the lack of a physical sunshade for the massive glass roof, how easily the tailgate hinge flap gets clogged with debris, preventing it from closing, dust entering the gear tunnel, and the lifting capacity required to remove the full-size spare. A puppy under the bed, even if it was just to pull the drain plug and let out any water that might have gotten in there, and the general poor functioning of both the key fob and the basic function of the phone, both improved noticeably with OTA updates, but still had issues. We thought we'd be more upset by the near absence of physical controls, but thanks to the intuitive user interface, that didn't become a problem. These annoyances didn't put us off the truck at all. Yes, we had some trials before returning the truck that extended the stay, but honestly, we didn't want to let it go either. Many vehicles pass through our long-term fleet, and it's not often that we get a vehicle that we'll truly miss when it's gone. Doc is one of those machines. For more information on the long-term 2022 Rivian R1T Launch Edition, the start of something great using the R1T as a farm truck net zero camping trip, it almost wasn't. The long-running Rivian R1T has a stealth mode difference between R1S and R1T. Rivia's phone key feature must work winter storms tire our electric pickup. All new features Rivian added to our truck since we bought it. We charged the e-bike with the Rivian R1T while riding, then hit the trail. How fast is the Rivian R1T? How to download Rivia. Maybe don't carrying. How the Rivian R1T works as a cargo carrier. Tales of backup with the Rivian R1T.